Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fresh Paradigms, featuring small business in COVID times. I'm your host, Teresa. I will be chatting with those who dared to create or adapt their small business in these unsettling times and give us inspiration. Now, stress and body pains are common to all of us, more so in these unsettling times. One of the ways to manage this is through acupuncture. So today I will be discovering a small business created by a licensed acupuncturist. Her name is Robin Wallace Bernales of High Point Acupuncture in Colorado, USA. Let's all welcome Robin.
Thank
How are
you.
you? How are
Well,
you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Is the volume okay with you?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
It's a little bit low, but
It's a little
are you
low.
able to? Yes.
I can scoot a little closer here. Maybe that's.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Robin.
It's good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
How are you now?
Good. Yeah, it's pretty warm here. It's been in the mid 90s today, so.
I know. Your story when you opened your acupuncture business in the midst of COVID time was so inspiring. I'm just so excited to share it with everyone.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just so excited. But first, before we start, for everyone who wants to make a comment or ask questions, uh, type in the comment box below. So if you have any questions for Robin, she's the one answering your question, not me. Anyway,
I'll
so
try.
just type in your yes. So let's start our chat. So it's a story and a chat, Robin. So how did the idea of creating this business come about?
Yeah, it's been in the works for a while. Um, I back in I guess it was 2015 probably that I finally made the decision. I was living in New York. I was not happy. I was in a good job, but I just was kind of a fish out of water. And so I was trying to think of what it was that I wanted to do with my life. And I looked around me, and especially in New York, it became really obvious that there were a lot of people who were in pain, you know, whether that's emotional pain or physical pain. I just saw a lot of people who were unhappy. And I was getting acupuncture every week for myself. That was kind of my self-care regimen. That was my special treat to myself every week. And so I started talking to my acupuncturist about all the different things that acupuncture can treat. And I became so aware of just the breadth of the practice, I guess you would say. There are so many things that acupuncture can treat. It's not just pain, it's not just stress, but it treats digestion and hormonal imbalances and insomnia and all of these things. And I knew that I wanted to do something to help people. And so I decided to move across the country and completely change directions, went to school, and here I am, I guess 5 years
Oh,
later, starting my
hold
own
on,
business.
Robin.
Yeah.
Robin, I think the internet is a little bit choppy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm seeing that things are freezing here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, the picture just kind of, it froze for a minute and it was sort of doing this cycling thing.
Yeah, it's doing like this.
Can you hear me
Can you
okay?
see? Now, yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. I'm not sure what you caught if part of that broke up, but yeah, I guess the main point is that I wanted to help people in the most natural way that I could, and the obvious answer for me was acupuncture because of all the different things that it treats.
Oh, Robin, who inspired you to start this business? Was there anyone who inspired you to start your acupuncture business?
I think there are a number of people who have inspired me. I think the first person was my acupuncturist. His name is Peter DeCino, and he works in New York City. And he was the first one that
Oh,
inspired
Robin,
me.
I don't know what's wrong with the internet.
Hmm. Let's see. I've got my husband here. He's my tech genius. Let's see if we can.
You're freezing, Robin. Are you
Is that
good?
better? Am I back?
Yeah. What did you do? What magic was that, Gerard?
I, that's husband magic.
Oh, there you go. So was there anyone who inspired you to get into this
Yeah.
acupuncture business?
I think the first person that inspired me was my acupuncturist in New York City. His name was Peter DeCino. And he was a pro amateur soccer player, I believe, and had decided in his 30s that he wanted to switch directions and got interested in acupuncture and had gone back to school and change of life path, I guess you'll say. And so he was the first one that inspired me. And then Gerard, my husband, who was not my husband at the time, was the one that really convinced me to make the change. He was the one that encouraged me to quit my job and move across the country and start afresh. And then I think the third person that was really influential in encouraging me to start my own business was my teacher, Alexander Love. He taught my practice management class when I was in school. And he really encouraged us to think about, what is it that you want to share with the world? What's your message? You know, how do you want to make an impact on the world around you? Not just with acupuncture, but what is the greater message that you want to share with your community? And so as I started thinking about that, I became really passionate about helping the local community and helping people sort of in this intersection between emotional pain and physical pain and where the two overlap. And I think that's what got me excited about starting my own practice and really making that message heard rather than working for somebody else.
How long did it take you to finish acupuncture course?
It was a 4-year program. I got concurrent master's degrees in acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. So I'm not just an acupuncturist, I'm also a Chinese herbalist.
Oh, wow. Wow. So it's to master. Acupuncture is,
Yep. It
is
was
there a difference?
I'm sorry?
What's the difference?
Between the acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine?
Correct.
There's a lot of overlap because they're both rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM as we say.
Yeah,
But
traditional.
acupuncture, yeah, with the acupuncture degree, we learn more about the physical modalities. With acupuncture and then the adjunct modalities like moxibustion that involves burning of an herb for its medicinal properties, and fire cupping. A lot of people have heard of Chinese fire cupping. That's another modality, and body work. So that's more focused on diagnosis as it relates to physical modalities. And then the Chinese herbal medicine utilizes those same diagnostic principles, if you will. But then that relates to how we put together formulas more for internal medicine purposes.
Wow. So do they go hand in hand?
They do. And that's why they were done concurrently, because there's so much overlap between the two. I think that the best combination is really doing acupuncture and Chinese herbal therapy. Some people choose just one or the other, but they both can treat musculoskeletal pain. They can both treat internal medicine. And so when you utilize them together, I think the synergy of the two together is the most effective combination.
Oh, for those who's unfamiliar with acupuncture, how does it work? For me, the mere mention of acupuncture, my mind is needles, and I'm scared of needles. So I don't know. If I go to you, how will I overcome that? The first concern of mine is I'm scared of needles. How does it work? How does it work?
It's a good question, and you're not alone in that fear. It's interesting.
Okay.
A lot of people who come in and their first time, they'll say, I'm really scared. I want to try this. I've heard great things, but go slowly, and that's fine. I always tell them you have complete veto power, meaning if there's anything that I do that makes you uncomfortable, you just tell me to stop and I'll stop. So I'll say that first. How does it work? I can show you an acupuncture needle here in a little bit. They're very thin. It's different than when you get your blood drawn or when you get a shot. Those needles are hollow, and they're meant to either inject a material into your body or to take blood out of your body. And so they're larger needles and they've got a hole in the center. These, my acupuncture needles, are filiform. They're just a solid needle. They're almost as thin as a human hair, and a lot of people don't even feel them going in. There's a
No,
guide
seriously.
I use. I'm sorry?
Seriously.
Seriously, yeah. A lot of people, they'll be really nervous, and I'll put it in, I'll say, how's that? And they'll say, oh, did you put it in? I didn't even know that it was in. And so the way that works is that we use a guide tube most often. Sometimes people will freehand, but I prefer to use a guide tube. And that puts surface tension on the skin, and you just tap the needle in through the guide tube, and that's that. Most of your nerve endings are on the surface of the skin. So once it punctures through the surface of the skin, most people don't even know that the needles are in. In fact, I've had a lot of people who fall asleep during their treatments because they're so relaxed.
What's the intent? I'm just scared of needles. I always hear acupuncture, acupuncture, because I have insomnia, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is that the same as when you're going to the dentist? Because I'm just so scared of the one that they use in the dental office.
In the dental office, I think those are painful. I don't particularly like those needles either. I mean, nothing against dentists, I still go, but
So this is less painful?
it's less painful. Yeah, most people don't even report pain with their acupuncture needles. If anything, the most common sensation is kind of a dull, achy sensation. We call it the chi. There's not a great translation for it, but essentially it feels sort of like this achy or a heavy sensation. And if you're getting trigger point needling, which is a little bit more of a modern acupuncture technique, which I do utilize, it feels a little bit more like if you go in for a deep tissue massage, we'll call it a hurt so good feeling. You know, when they really get in there, if you've got a knot and it's a little tender, but it kind of feels good because that's where you've been tied up in knots. So that's the most common sensation that people have with the needles.
Wow. I just have to overcome that. Because the mere mention,
rather than the actual physical pain of the needles. Yeah.
Yeah, the mere mention of needles is okay. I step back. Do you get a lot of those?
A lot of people who just take a step back and say needles aren't for me. Yeah, and so what I like to do when people come in for their first time is demonstrate on myself. I'll just show them my arm and I'll tap a needle in and I'll say, that's it, so that they can see the process of it going in. They see how easy it is. And I'll just try one needle, see how they feel. Sometimes people will prefer to come in for a cupping only session, and that's okay. I do those too. But I try to encourage people to try the needles at least once. And then if they don't like it after that, I won't pressure them. But at least once. You got to try everything once.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's so... Maybe. So, going back to your opening, you said you opened your business during COVID times, right? Can you walk us through that? How did that happen? In the middle of COVID, you open your business?
Well, it was right before our stay-at-home orders. So I got my, I filed for LLC. I believe it was the very end of January, maybe January 30th. And I got my EIN tax number, it was the beginning of February. And then I got everything put together. You know, I had my business plan. I had my electronic management system, which is where I do all of my charting. It's all electronic. So I had all of that set up and I opened my doors officially on March 1st. And then March 15th, I closed my doors.
Wow.
So it was, yeah. And, you know, at the time, we didn't really know where all of this was moving. It hit pretty quickly once it hit the United States. And I think it was much faster than many of us had expected. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I closed my doors when they first suggested that we self-quarantine. And then the stay-at-home order came, I believe it was around March 25th. I was already closed at the time. And then we stayed closed for about 2 months. And the stay-at-home order was lifted on May 9th. And I reopened about a week later on the 15th.
Wow.
So it's been a little bit of a rocky road.
I bet you. So when you open, what was the reaction of the community? I mean, it's still lockdown, right? It's still, here in Toronto, we have phase 1, phase 2, and so forth. When you opened the first time, what was the reaction of the community? Was there any negative or positive? How did you deal with that?
Well, at the very beginning of March, this actually wasn't a huge conversation. Like I said, it all happened very fast. And so I think at the beginning of March, it still felt very far away. It felt like it was happening in other areas, but not our area. And pretty quickly, once I decided to open, that's when I started second guessing myself and thinking maybe I need to close. And that's why I closed so quickly, was because I felt like that was the most responsible thing for me to do, even though the order hadn't come in yet. And so I would say I've gotten more reactions since I've opened the second time. And I've
Uh-huh.
had nothing but support from the local community. And I would say one of the big reasons that I decided to open again, we're, as you mentioned, we're in this safer at home now is what it's called. And so as you said, there are different phases to opening. So more people are starting to go out and get involved in the community again. And one of the big reasons that I decided to open was because we were seeing opioid use starting to go up because people hadn't been able to go in and do their acupuncture or their massage therapy or go to the gym, whatever it is that makes them feel better. And so they're relying on these heavy duty medications. So we're seeing opioid use going up. We're seeing a lot of mental health crises. Suicide rates were going up, domestic abuse, substance abuse, all of those numbers were on the rise. And so I felt like this was my responsibility to the community, was to open up again and become available to them so that they had some kind of answer. They had some kind of help outside of substances to turn to.
Wow. Were you scared? I mean, were you scared opening the second time?
I was a little nervous. My husband and I had some serious conversations about, is this the right time? Is this the most responsible thing to do? And, the main reason that I got into acupuncture in the first place was to help people. And so if I go back to what are my main priorities are to help people and be available to people and to be doing the most responsible thing I feel like I can for the community. And so that, coupled with the new recommendations from the CDC and going through all of my new protocols that I've put into place for cleaning, I do feel really confident that I can keep a safe space, or at least that I'm doing everything that I possibly can to keep a safe space for my clients. And I think that we're at a time where we have to find a way to function. We can't stay closed down forever. And so we need to find a safe and responsible way that we can function, that we can address these physical problems that people are having. We can address their emotional problems. We can address the financial problems that we have now, because it's hit a lot of people financially. Economically, we need to be opening and engaging in business, but in a safe way that's not going to be irresponsible to our community.
Wow. Was it hard implementing the mandate of the government?
It was, I wouldn't say it was hard. It just took a lot of forethought, a lot of lists. I watched a lot of webinars and did a lot of research. And in fact, I've implemented some things even beyond what the CDC requires, because I feel like that's the most responsible thing. For example, I moved into a new treatment space where I have more flexibility in terms of timing. So I'm able to space patients out a little bit further. That way I can air out the room. I can do a really thorough clean. I can sanitize all of the surfaces. I use a HEPA filter that's going constantly during treatments and between treatments. I've replaced all of my pillows with wipeable pillows so that I just have that extra layer of precaution.
So every time there's an appointment, you always sanitize everything around?
I do. I sanitize everything before my patient comes in and then immediately after they leave. And so if I don't have another patient for the rest of the day, I'll sanitize that night. And then the next day when I come in to see another patient, I sanitize again. So sometimes the room is actually being sanitized twice between patients. And I do that because there are people who are walking through the treatment center. Even if they're not in my room, I still feel, it makes me feel like it's cleaner, and I feel like it's the most responsible thing that I can do for my patients.
Wow. Are you by yourself? Do you have a partner in this business?
My husband I'm looking over here because my husband's with me. I call him my silent partner. Not really. I'm the only practitioner and I'm really the primary business owner, but he and I will bounce ideas off of each other. But pretty much it's a one-woman show.
Really? I have a question here. They were saying, what is the difference between the acupuncturists with physiotherapists? Are they very similar or?
That's a great question. Yeah, because a lot of physical therapists and even chiropractors and some MDs will do what we call dry needling. The reason it's called dry needling is because you're not injecting a substance, so it's dry. It's not, there's no substance. And generally what they are trained to do is to go directly into a muscle, into a trigger point, and elicit a twitch response, which gets the muscle to relax. The muscles will sort of get stuck in this state between partially contracted and partially relaxed. And so they'll go in and kind of fatigue the muscle until it's able to relax. That can be effective. The difference with acupuncturists, we utilize that technique, but we also have additional techniques, and we have much more training that's required. So in order to complete a dry needling course, I think some people are able to do it just within a weekend. And for us, like I said, I've got 4 years of master's level education. And so seeing a licensed acupuncturist gives you a wider variety of techniques. We're able to treat a wider variety of issues like insomnia, like digestion, like hypertension, these kinds of things that physical therapists are not necessarily trained to treat. They can be effective in treating musculoskeletal disorders, but the range of their techniques is not the same as what a licensed acupuncturist would have.
Can they go hand in hand?
They certainly can. Yeah, and I don't mean to be bad-mouthing physical therapists at all. I think that their practice is very important, and it's important to me that we maintain a good relationship with physical therapists. And many of them do have more than just the bare minimum amount of training. So anybody who goes to a physical therapist for dry needling, I would just encourage them to ask about their education and their experience level, but they certainly can go hand in hand. And one of the benefits of seeing a physical therapist is often that they accept insurance. And so sometimes I'll suggest, okay, well, if you want to do that and then you want to come in here and get Chinese herbal therapy, for instance, or if you want to work on your insomnia with me and then you want to work with your physical therapist, and then the two of us can work together as part of your treatment plan or part of your treatment team. So it doesn't always have to be one or the other.
Wow, that's very informative.
I hope that answers their question.
So now, how does your business look today, right now?
It's been slow. I think that that's typical of any business that's getting up on its feet, and especially right now with COVID. It's starting to pick up a little bit, but it is still fairly slow. And so I just, I'm trying to take it as it comes. I want things to grow organically, and I feel that if I maintain my perspective and my same message to the community of the things that I feel like I'm effective in treating and what's important to me, that I'll attract the people who are right for my practice. So I'm trying not to get too anxious and just allow things to happen as they need to happen.
Wow. So for anyone who's dreaming of creating their small business, what advice can you give now that you've walked through the journey? I mean, the struggle of creating your business in this COVID times. What advice can you give them?
That's a good question. I guess because I'm still in it myself. I don't have a great answer for that, but I think my answer would be let passion drive you. Figure out what it is, and I'll just give the same advice that my teacher gave me. Figure out what it is that drives you and keep that focus on why it is that you've decided to start your business, because it can get discouraging. And if you're not really clear on that vision, then you'll start to second guess yourself. But if you know exactly what it is that you're passionate about, why you wanted to start that business in the first place, and what it is that you have to offer, then that vision remains clear. No matter what obstacles come your way, you always have a clear direction, even if it's a little rocky or a little challenging.
Wow, well said. Well said. Now, for example, if I want to go to your treatment center, how would be the process? Can you walk me through that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
I'm role playing here.
okay,
So
so let's
so
say that
what's
you,
happening? I if I want a telemedicine, I just want to call you, right?
uh-huh,
You offer that one, right?
I do.
Through
Yes.
phone
Yes.
consultation and
Yeah,
in person.
I do. I offer a free 30-minute phone consultation if people just want to learn about acupuncture before, if they're not ready to commit to treatments yet. I'm happy to hop on the phone, and I don't charge anything for that because I want them to feel good about the commitment that they're making. But once they've made a commitment, if they're coming in for acupuncture, I offer to do the initial evaluation and intake on the phone, and that way it limits the amount of time that we spend face to face in the room. If that's something that's important to them, I'm happy to do it in person if they want, but that can often decrease the amount of time that we're together face to face by half hour, 45 minutes, which is helpful. And then for purely telemedicine, that obviously doesn't work with acupuncture, but I can go over acupressure points, or I can also do Chinese herbal therapy. So we can do the entire intake on the phone. If we're doing herbal therapy, I prefer to do it via video conference because then I can meet face to face with the person. They can see who I am. They'll feel more comfortable with me. And also I can observe their tongue because that's an important diagnostic thing for us, believe it or not, is observing somebody's tongue, looking at their face, just seeing what they look like is important for us diagnostically. And then I'll put together a custom herbal formula, and then that company will ship it directly to their house. So they don't have to leave their house to pick it up. It's very easy.
So that would be the physical distancing.
Correct. So you can go onto the website and you can sign up for a telemedicine herbal consultation is what that would look like. And I would invite you to hopefully a video conference. We could also do it via the telephone, but it's best via video conference. I would just send an invitation in their email when it's time to start, and we would meet face to face, but over the phone or over the computer. And we would do about an hour long for the first consultation, and then each follow-up would be about 30 minutes long. And we would check in, we would talk about a whole body system review, anything from digestion to sleep to what your body temperature feels like. All of these things are helpful. And I would evaluate your pattern is what we call it. We look at all of these different criteria that are happening in different areas of your body. And we evaluate that pattern or diagnose a pattern. And then based on that pattern, I'll put together a custom herbal formula and have it sent to your house.
Now, if I decide to come to check your treatment center, what would be the process for me?
So if you're coming into the treatment center, then we're not utilizing our waiting room right now because we don't want people congregating in that room. So you would be asked to wait in your car when you arrive and give me a call or text to let me know that you're there. And when I'm ready for you, I'll call you and we'll just go through some screening questions, things like, have you had any shortness of breath? Have you had a fever, a sore throat, loss of taste or smell, these kinds of things, for COVID screening. And assuming that you haven't had any symptoms, I'll come and meet you outside. We'll do a quick touchless temperature check, make sure that you're not running a fever. And then I'll invite you into the treatment room. We'll sit, there's 6 feet distance between where I'm sitting and my clients are sitting. And we'll have a conversation, like an intake conversation. I always require all my patients to wear a mask, and I would be wearing a mask also. I'm just not for the purposes of the interview right now, but I can also bring them a mask if they're not wearing one. But we'll come in here, we'll sit down, have a conversation, talk about what your chief complaint is, what it is that you want to treat, but we'll also go through, like I said, that full body system review because that helps me with my overall diagnosis. And then once we've done the intake, done a blood pressure check, I'll leave the room. I allow some time for my patients to get comfortable on the treatment table, come back in, and we'll start with the treatment. I insert my acupuncture needles or do the cupping. Oftentimes I'll do a couple different sets. So we might do a face down treatment, put some needles in. I'll leave the room and give them some privacy, some time to relax with the music and the lights down low. And then I'll come back in, take those needles out. And then oftentimes, like I said, there's either another set of needles or body work or gua sha, which is a scraping technique.
So there's less interaction.
Yes, yeah, and I leave a little call button with them. So if there's anything that they need while they're resting with the needles, they can always call me. I'm always available, but that will give them some privacy in the room so that they can just relax and maybe take a little acu nap.
Oh, so wow. Can you give us a 360 tour of your clinic? Just
Sure.
one.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm actually going to ask my husband. He's here. He's going to man the camera so that I can use both of my hands to show you.
Okay.
Okay, so if we turn the camera around here, this is the area where my patients will sit. There's a pillow right now on the chair, but that's where they'll sit. There's a bowl for them to put their personal effects. We've got a little fountain. And then turning the camera, I've got a window in my room that I like to keep open just for some extra airflow. And we've got a screen in front of it for privacy. And then over here, I have my medicine cabinet, which has all my supplies in it. So if you take a look in here, here are the Chinese fire cups. They're glass cups that we heat up and then place on the skin. And as they cool, it creates a suction. A lot of people have seen that with like the Olympic athletes. And
yes, I've seen those.
Athletes. Yeah, that's been gaining a lot of traction. I've got my cotton balls and my alcohol wipes. I have my hand sanitizer, which I'm always going to use during a treatment. I've got all of my needles here. I've got a surgical tray and my sharps container. So everything that I need is here in this cabinet. And if you want, I can show you an acupuncture needle, or I could even do a demonstration if you'd like to see how.
Your husband will be the model.
He has already graciously volunteered to be a model if you'd like a demonstration.
Okay. He's not gonna scream, right? It's just stopping. No. Okay. How many needles you're using?
You know, it really depends. Sometimes I usually use more than one, but sometimes all you need is one. Usually I use at least 4 to 8. My preference is to keep it around 10 to 15, and sometimes I'll go even as much as 20 or 25. But it depends on the style of acupuncture that you're doing. So if I'm treating something that's internal medicine, I try to keep it to a lower number. The analogy that I've been taught before and that I really like is, if you imagine that it's like with every needle, you're sending an email to your body's inbox. And if you have 20 emails, it can be difficult to sort through what that message is. Whereas if you just have a few, it's a much clearer message. But if you're treating musculoskeletal pain, sometimes it'll be more, because it's a more modern technique where you're just treating that particular muscle and trying to get that muscle imbalance to correct itself. So it really depends, but I like to keep it around 10 to 15 needles.
Wow, that's a lot for me.
For you, I'll do fewer.
How long is the treatment?
The treatments, for your first session, I like to say to allow 90 minutes, but that also gives us time to do the intake. The actual treatment itself usually takes about maybe half an hour to 40 minutes. And it also depends on how many different sets we're doing. Usually I'll let somebody rest for about 15 to 20 minutes per set of needles. So if you're just coming in for one set, we'll do a set of needles, let you rest for 15 or 20 minutes, and maybe do some body work, and then you'll be on your way. But for follow-up treatments, I say to allow 60 minutes. That allows just a really quick intake, and then you'll get on the table and we'll do the treatment.
Wow. I'm curious, behind you, there's something, a display. What is that?
Oh, over here?
Yeah.
Oh, these are my herbal samples. We have hundreds of herbs that we use in Chinese medicine, but I like to keep these up just as a visual sample for people when they come in. This is what the herbs look like before they've been decocted in a tea. This is the bulk raw form of the herbs. So if you come take a look, these are just some examples of what the herbs will look like. Generally, when I prescribe an herbal formula, it's already been decocted and dehydrated, and it comes in a granular form. so that it's sort of like an instant coffee. All that they have to do is just mix it with warm water to dissolve it, and it creates a tea. It's very low maintenance, if you will, or it's not very labor intensive. It's pretty easy. So they can take them to work and they just do a couple scoops in warm water, let them dissolve, and then there you go. I can order bulk herbs. Some people prefer to do that. And you just boil it in water for about 30 minutes, and then you strain the herbs out, and then you've got your hot tea. But I think the granulars are easier to work with.
Wow. So you provide it. We can buy it from your clinic.
Well, I don't provide it out of my clinic. What I do is I call in the prescription to an external herbal pharmacy, and then they'll deliver it to your house.
Oh, okay, okay. That's great. That's great. Are you showing how to tap the needle? Are you gonna do a demo for how to do the acupuncture?
Sure. Would you like to see?
Oh my God, I'm scared.
So when you come visit me in Colorado, this is what you can.
I have to overcome this fear. I mean, oh my God. Is it really quick?
It's pretty quick. Yeah. I'll show you how easy it is. I'll have my husband put the phone up, and then he'll get situated on the table, and we'll just do a short little demonstration.
Oh, that's lovely. The husband is ready.
He's going to get situated on the table. And I'm going to get my gloves on because I wear gloves throughout the treatment.
Uh-huh. And I will be wearing the mask all the time while being treated?
I'm sorry?
I will be wearing the mask while being treated, right?
Yes. Yeah, patients are required to wear a mask through the whole treatment.
Oh, I see. Are you required to wear a face shield?
I'm not required to wear a face shield, but I wear a mask through the whole treatment. Like I said, the only reason that I'm not wearing a mask at the beginning of the interview was just because we were doing an interview, and I don't have any patients for the rest of the day today or tomorrow. So when we finish here, we'll do a deep clean of the room, and then the next time that I come in, I will be wearing a mask from the time that I enter.
Wow.
But, so my husband's gonna, I'm gonna put together, let's see. I realized I didn't have the face cradle up, so let's put this up real quick. And he's gonna lie down.
Can we breathe? He's facing down with the mask
and a
on.
thumbs up. Yep, he can breathe. Yeah, what I recommend to patients if they're having a difficult time breathing, if they're face down, is just to grab the outside of the mask and pull it out a little bit, and that creates just a little bit of space for them to be able to breathe. The face cradle is actually a U shape, so the only reason that it should be more difficult to breathe is if it's pulling the mask really tightly against your face. So creating a little bit more space usually solves that problem really easily.
Wow.
So I'm going to put some gloves on here.
And here comes the needles.
Pull the stool out here. So I always swab the point with alcohol first before I stick the needle in.
How many needles are you putting?
I'm just going to put 2 needles in, one on either side. And this is the point that associates with the lungs. And so this will be a nice lung support for him. So the needles come individually packaged. They're all sterile and they're single-use needles and they're disposable. So once I'm done with them, they do not get sterilized, they just get thrown out. And I'll get up close here so that you can see what the needle looks like with the needle tube.
Oh, wow.
So there's a tube, and then the tip of the needle, oh, this is not the tip, this is the handle of the needle, is sticking up just a little bit. So the tip of the needle is in the needle tube right now, and I'll place the tube up against his skin, and then I'll just tap it in.
Do you count?
Sometimes I offer to count. If somebody's feeling really anxious about the needles, I'll ask if they want me to count to 3, or sometimes I'll lead them through a breathing pattern. So I'll show you what that looks like. All right, take a nice deep breath in and out. So it's already in his skin here. Did you feel that go in?
I didn't feel a thing.
He says he didn't feel it. So I'm gonna put it a little bit deeper so that it gets just a little bit deeper in the tissue. And there we go.
That's done?
It's done.
So how long will it stay?
I'm sorry, what's that?
How long will it stay there?
Usually I would leave it for about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
I've had many patients fall asleep on the treatment table, so it's very relaxing. So we'll put one in the other side here. All right, take a nice deep breath in and out.
Wow.
And there we go.
And that's it?
That's it. It's very easy. So typically I would leave these a little bit longer, but I'm going to take them out. And I can show you some cupping if you'd like to see cupping. Would you like to see a fire cupping demonstration?
Yeah, sure. That's the glass, right?
I'm sorry?
The glass, like a dome?
Yeah, I'll show you how the cupping works. So I have my forceps here, and I'll put a cotton ball on the end of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak it in alcohol and then set it on fire. And I'll put that inside the cup to heat up the air inside of the cup. And then I remove the cotton ball and I put the cup down on his skin. And as that cools, it creates a vacuum inside and it will draw up blood to the surface. So many people have seen those. It looks like a bruise, but it's not painful. It shouldn't be painful. It looks like a bruise on the skin. And what that's done is it's drawn up all of these dead blood cells around the area and increased the circulation in the area, and it encourages the generation of new blood.
Oh, wow. And impurities, will it bring out all the impurities?
It can. That's generally not necessarily what it's used for. It's used more for increasing the circulation and things like that. We don't look so much at impurities in the sense of like toxins within the skin, but I suppose it would bring those to the surface as well.
Wow. So you're firing a cotton ball with alcohol, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna, let's see, where can I put this that you'll see? So I'm gonna soak this cotton ball in alcohol.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll just wring it out so that it's not dripping. We don't want that.
Uh-huh.
And I have my lighter.
I was wondering when I saw that lighter, I said, why are you using a lighter?
It's for cupping.
Okay.
So I'll light the cotton ball on fire, and then you'll see what I do. I'll stick it in the cup, and I'll let that heat up for a little bit, and then I'll put it on his skin. It's low on lighter fluid. There we go.
Wow.
So he's going to get a cup right about here. I'll put that out, and then you'll see this has created a suction now. Can you see this?
Yeah.
I'm pulling on the cup, but there's a suction. So I can pull this in different ways to help break up the fascial adhesions. I can just leave that for a little bit to let him rest with it. Or sometimes we'll put some kind of an oil, oftentimes with Chinese herbs, we'll put an oil on the skin, and that way we can actually move the cup along the skin in different patterns that helps to keep circulation going and helps to break up those fascial adhesions. That's really nice for big, broad muscles like the lats, for instance, that a lot of people have a difficult time stretching or have a difficult time rubbing out. This is really great for getting those to relax and getting some good blood flow in there.
Wow. Wow. That's so very informative, Robin. Wow. Wow.
And thank you to my husband for volunteering.
I think he's sleeping now.
Yeah. We'll just let him take a nap here.
Oh, we can go on and on this thing, but we only have 1 hour for this one. But you have already covered so much information about acupuncture. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us and adapting your small business in these COVID times.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me. I appreciate it so much. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or anybody else has. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm always available by email or telephone or text.
Thank you so much, Robin. And to Gerard, thank you so much. Okay. And for everyone who shared your time with us, with Robin and myself, thank you so much. Oh, everyone is saying thank you to you, Robin.
Oh, well,
On
thanks
the
for
com-
joining us.
yeah. So everyone, thank you so much for sharing with us, and tune in for next week. Next Sunday, we will have another small business discovery. So yes, so next Sunday, tune in again. And again, support small business. Always support small business. And of course, be safe and take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.